On the guitar, Carl Verheyen.
A monster performance by the group Supertramp of the song Another Man's Woman, featuring the distinctive guitar work of Carl Verheyen. Carl has been voted one of the world's top 10 guitarists by Guitar Magazine and has just released a new solo album called The Grand Design. He'll also be appearing, along with his band, tonight at the Saint in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and tomorrow, Monday, at Rockwood Music Hall in New York City. Carl Verheyen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Now, you know what they say. If you want to get to Carnegie Hall, practice, practice, practice. And to get as good as you are on guitar, I would imagine that you must have picked up a guitar at a very young age.
Yeah, I got my first guitar and my first lesson at actually on my 11th birthday. So the day I turned 11 was the day that I got it all going on.
Was there anyone who inspired you to play guitar?
Yeah, I would say the first two big influences for me was Roger McGuinn of the Byrds.
Oh, yeah.
And George Harrison of the Beatles. Those two guys, I looked at those guys and went, that's what I want to do.
Now, when you joined Supertramp, they'd been going for a while, and you must have felt like you were in the eye of a hurricane going from playing small venues to suddenly overnight playing arenas.
Well, it was really a bucket list thing, and it was really a joy. And I'll tell you, at first I was hired as a sideman. In other words, they had just done a record, and they needed a guy to play this big David Gilmour solo that they'd recorded by, the Pink Floyd guitarist.
Sure.
They needed a good rhythm player and stuff like that. And so I think there was 18 people before me that auditioned, and I was number 19. And 19 is my lucky number, so that reinforced that for me. But about 6-7 years later, they made me a band member. And but in those very early days, I'm 20-something years old, and I'd been playing in these little jazz clubs and little blues clubs and stuff to 30 or 40 people. And then when I walked out on stage with those guys in front of an audience of 20,000 people, somewhere up in Canada, even though we'd had 6 weeks of rehearsal, I completely forgot the first thing I was supposed to do, So, yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking. And then there was a very funny experience where they had an old tradition, like a lot of bands do. They've been on the road for years. They got a lot of traditions. They had a really funny tradition to where after the show, but before the encore, they open a bottle of port wine backstage and decant it through the cheesecloth,
Sure.
the way you decant port. And meanwhile, this is one of those giant hockey stadiums where with metal bleachers, and people are slamming their feet on the bleachers, and we're backstage underneath it all, and we're hearing this huge roar. And I'm a kid. I'm used to these what we call cheap encores. Like you don't even make it to the backstage door before you turn around and go, "Thank you."
Right.
So I'm going, guys. Maybe we should get back up there. And they're just leisurely decanting this bottle of wine. It was really an eye-opening experience because we waited a good 6 or 7 minutes before going back on stage to finish it. It was a great experience.
As if trying to get that David Gilmour solo wasn't nerve-wracking enough.
No, that was easy. That was already easy. He plays so beautifully and so simply. And a drummer that used to be in my band named Stevie DeStanislow is now playing with him. And so I got to see him in L.A. about 3 weeks ago. It was really fun. Great show.
Wow. Once again, we're speaking with guitarist Carl Verheyen, who has a show tonight at the Saint in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and then tomorrow night at Rockwood Music Hall in New York City. The new album is called The Grand Design, and something that stuck out for me was your cover of a well-known song by Bob Dylan, The Times They Are A-Changin'.
Great, yeah. That's just a song whose lyrics, even though they were written like in 65 or something, are just perfect for today. It's just amazing, especially the one, senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway. Don't block up the hall.
Right.
Wow. Can you imagine even back then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, we have a version of it in 6/8 time that's very, it's a little bit jazzy, but it's so much fun to play, and we sort of bring people into the set by, into our show by starting with that. something they've heard and something they can relate to, and yet a completely different version.
Once again, we're speaking to Carl Verheyen, guitarist of Supertramp. He's got his own band and a new record, too, called The Grand Design. We just heard his version of The Times They Are A-Changin'. And tonight, he'll be at the Saint in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and tomorrow, Rockwood Music Hall in New York City. Carl, tell us about the guys in the band.
Well, the drummer is John Mader, and he's played with all kinds of people, from Steve Miller to the Sly and the Family Stone. You know, he's got all kinds of credits, and he's a very studied and accomplished musician that can read music, having done Broadway shows like The Lion King, and it looks like he's going to be doing Hamilton when it comes out to San Francisco next year. So he's that guy. And the bass player, Dave Murata, he's been in the band since 1988. So we've done many records together. And Dave's played on lots of big records and a lot of movie dates and stuff like that in the States. And years ago toured with Gino Vanelli and, all kinds of people. So.
Well, you've played with a lot of people, too. In fact, I know you do plenty of movie and TV soundtrack work, and this might sound like a naive question, but when you're doing that, when you're playing to a film, is it projected behind you, like the way the orchestras did in the old days?
Yeah, the way it works is the conductor is looking at the film, and so the screen is actually a big screen behind us on these big scoring stages. And so the conductor's seeing the movie, and he's got a little streamer that goes along that tells him when the cue starts and then when the cue ends. And so he's trying to conduct at that tempo when we do it what you call on the stick, which means we're watching his baton and playing to that time feel. Now, the other way to do it is he's watching the screen, but we don't really have to worry about him because we're actually just watching we're listening to click track in our ears. So there's two ways of doing it, and sometimes they record the cues each way, and it's fun. Sometimes I've been in with a 105-piece orchestra and been the principal soloist, which is quite nerve-wracking, because they say, "Would you like another take, Carl?" And I go, "Yes, please. I think I can do it better." And then you see about 75 string players groan. But, they wanted to get the best performance out of the principal soloist, so if that's me, I'm going to make it right.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to remind the audience that they can see you tonight at the Saint in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and then tomorrow at Rockwood Music Hall in New York City. The new CD is called The Grand Design, and is there a place online where people can get the CD and find out more information about you?
Well, you can always go to carlverheyen.com, and that's Carl with a C, and then Verheyen, as in Nancy. And that's one way to go, but and that gets you the CD or a download. But there's also another product, too. I recorded the record out at Sweetwater, which is a giant music retail place that sells everything from microphones to, grand pianos. And these guys are over in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Sweetwater.com has a special product that is a high-res download, but it also comes with little films about how I played the songs and how they mixed the songs, and comes with a complete list of the gear that I used on the record. There's many guitars, maybe 50 different guitars I used on the record, and just a lot of little extras, and that's a downloadable product from Sweetwater. And I also want to mention that the show in Asbury Park that's at the Saint, I think all fathers and sons should try to come to that.
Absolutely. Once again, before I let you go, I chose The Times They Are A-Changin' to play. Is there anything in particular that you would choose? I know it's like choosing between your children, but a song that you would pick.
I mean, the one right after that is kind of fun, too, called Closing Time Blues. You might try that one.
All right, we'll do it. Carl, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us, and we look forward to seeing you in Asbury Park and at the Rockwood Music Hall.
Great. Thank you so much. I sure appreciate it.
It's been a joy speaking with you. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay.